What to do when you don't believe you have enough time to fulfill your calling, your passion. Maybe it's coaching or building a business. What do you do? That's what we're tackling on this episode of the Business Coaching Success Podcast. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Well, welcome. Glad that you're here, BJ O'Neill. It is December. Hard to believe. I kind of say that a lot, but it really is. It's fascinating on how time goes. Speaking of time, that is exactly what we're talking about. And now I will tell you right out of the gate, it's entirely possible that I might accidentally step on some toes in this podcast, not on the purpose to just be offensive. I don't mind to offend as long as it urges you, pushes you, and really gets you connected to what it is that you want to do. When we're talking about time, though, I talk to a lot of prospective would-be coaches, guys who own businesses, guys who are CPAs, ministry backgrounds, you name it. And when I ask the question, so what is it that's preventing you right now from moving in the direction that you want to go and starting a business? It's a couple of reasons. One will be I don't know where to start. I don't know how the resources and tools, which we help lots of people solve that problem. The other one, though, and as much, I really don't have enough time to do it. So here's step one. If you want to fulfill your purpose, your dream, your calling, we often talk about having a warrior mindset, being a lion chaser. In other words, chasing lion-sized, dreams and challenge that feel challenged simply because we don't know how to get there. The obstacles, the things that we believe are in the way, the distractions, all that stuff. What do we do? And when it comes to doing that, we have to, number one, understand a key principle about time. So I'm going to share several different things for you to ponder, pray about, consider, think about, all that good stuff as we jump into this, that I hope it challenges you. Maybe you're in a situation right now, you've been coaching people for free. I talked to someone earlier today. They started a business a few years ago, or a coaching business, but because they just don't have all the resources and tools that they need, it's been a challenge. Perhaps you have this, maybe you own a business and you want to help others. You don't know where to start. If you're curious about that, you can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. There's some resources that you can get right there. You can even book a time to chat if you're interested in learning more about it. Maybe you did start. Maybe you have started, but you feel this tug of war of this thing called time. Now, the seasons have changed, and it always happens at some point where it gets my throat. And so if I have to clear my throat a few times, that's why. I know I don't love that sound, but it is what it is. I'm not going to let that stop me. So how do we start this business? How do we start this dream, this purpose, this calling? Yet we believe that time is the thing that's in the way, okay? Well, here's the reality. Number one, we all have the same amount of time. You probably have heard that before. Maybe you disagree with that notion, but we do. It is what we do with the time that matters. Let me give you some context before I dive into four different things I want you to consider, okay? One, let's say that you've got the people of the world who they have unlimited financial resources. That's not me, probably not you, but they have unlimited resources. Well, how they approach their time is going to be very different than how I'm going to approach it. Why? They have the resources to do so. They could be chefs, home managers, assistants, pilots, right? The list goes on and on and on. People to do lots of different things so that they can stay focused on the main thing that's generating resource for them. So there's an example that I have the same time that they do, but they get to make this different decision because of the resources that they have. So when we say that we all have the same amount of time, it's true. It's what we do with it based upon our knowledge and resources. Okay? But here's four areas that you really need to consider that's going to help you reframe, refocus, have a paradigm shift on this whole time thing. Because again, it's not about time. We're going to get to that. I'm going to explain that in these 4 areas. The first is, I'm going to use building a coaching practice as an example. We're about to turn here soon to 2025. Maybe in the next new year, you're wanting to develop this, but you don't know really where to start, right? Well, first, you must start with some type of dream, purpose that ignites a passion. In other words, it's an inclination that will drive you to an end result at some point. You may not know how it's all going to work. You may not know how it's all going to be fulfilled. You don't know how it's all going to come to be a pass. You don't need to. The whole point of a dream is to have a vision so you can have forward motion that moves you to that. Now, I say this because without that, things can feel tactical and not inspirational. There's going to be plenty of times, roadblocks, challenges, things that are going to come up that you didn't plan for or didn't prepare for, rather. Things that you would prefer not, but that's reality. It's life. You know it's going to happen. And when you don't have the inspirational thing to help you focus on that dream, it just will feel like a task. So it's not enough, in my opinion at least, it's not enough just to say that, hey, you know what would be a cool idea? I want to have a coaching business. I just like to help others. But what's the reason why you really want to do that? Sure, we all love to help others. I want to help others fulfill their dreams by being able to generate enough resource to fund whatever it is that they want to fulfill. Here's typically, you hear flexibility. Maybe that's you. You want to work for yourself. You want to spend more time with your family. Maybe you're in a job or a position or you have to travel a lot or you get pulled away all the time. And you want to solve that by spending more time with your kids, your grandkids, family, friends, and all that, right? Well, I think we're losing the art of dreaming. Well, BJ, if I dream like that, it's just so unrealistic. Well, that's what God-sized dreams are all about. When you have these God-sized dreams and you're praying for wisdom, you're praying for relationships, you're praying for things to come into your path that's going to show you the next thing. You still don't have the full fulfillment of how it's going to happen, but that's where God gets to do his part of the equation. And I've seen it happen time to time on my own life and others where we can't make it up because that's the part that God provides. But we can't do that if we don't have these God-sized dreams, these purposes that ignites excitement, passion, and fulfillment. So one, that's what you got. If that's you and you really haven't put it in the standpoint of a dream, it's just been way more tactical, the likelihood of you continuing to follow it will probably wane. And I've been doing this for a very long time with working with hundreds of guys all over the last many years. That's what will happen. But those who have passion and dream and purpose behind it, the game changes because that becomes a driver in the sea of the unknown. So that's one, dream and purpose. Number two, we then have to begin to develop a well thought out plan to achieve the dream. That may sound elementary to you, but what will happen, or what often happens, it could be just out of sheer ignorance, excitement, lack of just thinking things through, wisdom, call it whatever you want, is that if we begin to just go do without having strategy, without having thought, without having some time to think it through, the obstacles are going to be far greater than they need to be. You'll be way more overwhelmed than you need to be. You'll get way more frustrated than you need to be. And so we begin to build a plan. Now, here's the thing. We're not a Fortune 500 company. So that plan can be as simple as written down on a notebook paper or in the back of a napkin. It doesn't have to be a sophisticated plan, and it needs to be flexible enough. Flexible doesn't mean necessarily to change, but it needs to be flexible enough that I edit it along the journey as I learn. You might get somebody that gets put in your path that's, 5 to 10 years down the road. Excuse me. And knowledge that they impart with you is going to give you some insights, some things that you didn't know that you now can implement into your plan. And that plan could be a simple plan. I wouldn't argue to make it too complex, but it can be a complex plan if you just know a little bit more. Maybe you've owned a business or two, and so you've got a little more knowledge on how to build a strong business plan. But you got to build a plan that begins to move you towards that actual dream, that purpose, and the desire. Because there's so many different ways that you can do this. And if you're not careful, you can build plans without the dream. You build plans for something that you end up somewhere that you didn't really want to be at. That's the purpose of the dream and the plan. And the dream isn't necessarily to just build the business coaching practice. The dream is the emotional part, flexibility, time. It's like saying, and it's not all about money, but we have to have money to have resources to survive. Hey, I want to be able to earn X so that I can do X, Y, and Z. Have more flexibility, have more time, have more freedom, coach wherever I want, travel all over the place. Like those are the things that the coaching part is going to help you to fulfill that dream. It's not just having 10 clients or 8 clients. That's the mistake that a lot of people make, is they say, I want to get a coaching practice where I got 7 clients, I got 10 clients, whatever. That needs to be addressed in the plan to fulfill the purpose and the dream. All right. And to some degree, we're always working on and moving towards a dream because that dream is going to expand. The more knowledge you have, the more exposure that you get, and the more experience that you get, your dream will shift and morph into other things, which is great. Now, you don't want to change it all the time. Otherwise, you could accidentally and inadvertently create too much friction to the dream. So we have a dream and a purpose. Now we have a plan that we begin to do this very thing. And this is where the time thing gets solved. It's not a time problem. It's an activities problem and a focus problem. So as we have this dream, we have this plan, we now begin to build the activities necessary and needed to fulfill the plan that fulfills the dream. Prayerfully, you're following along at this point. Those activities, like everything else, you need to have some type of mindset that says, this is what I know right now. Based upon my experience, those that are around me, the coaching I'm receiving, or whatever. This is the activities. 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, you're going to learn through others and through experiences, both what to do and what not to do. And you'll shift and you'll edit the activities. Those activities then, and this is where the rubber meets the road, gets scheduled in your calendar. You've likely heard this before. What gets scheduled gets achieved. But too many entrepreneur-minded people, coaches, business owners, and the like are constantly suffering from the tyranny of the urgent, and they're pulled in so many different directions. Why? They've not made a solid plan and the activities that are needed, because the activities suggest, I need to do this, this, and this today. And if you get new ideas or distractions, you tell them no, because you've already made a commitment to the things that need to happen to fulfill the plan. And we understand that that plan fulfills the dream. So case in point, I don't know, over a year ago, year and a half, I'm not sure how long, we started the podcast. Just through some prayer, some process, talking to some others, it made good sense for BJ to develop a content stream of a weekly podcast. Now, I knew when I did that even though that was a part of the activities needed to fulfill the plan so I can have my purpose and my dream fulfilled, I knew that those activities would have to come before other things, even if I really enjoyed the other things. And outside of a week or two, we have had a new episode every single week. Now, there's a defined process. We have VAs that are involved. They're recorded on certain days, edited on certain days, released on certain days, every single week. Occasionally, it shifts around a little bit just because the week gets a little bit discombobulated because life is life, but still, we make it happen. That is called planning. And the podcast in my scenario helps address questions. People who are curious about coaching, current coaches who are receiving information and value to building their business. That's their whole purpose why content, in this case, through podcast. Then we started that way, and then we begin to do it on a YouTube channel. I think less than a year ago. The YouTube channel was not a part of the original plan. But over time, as we learned, it made good sense. As YouTube is moving into the space, it made good sense to add that. That's what happens. We don't have to start perfect. We don't have to start with everything. We don't have to start with constant, I got to know it all and have every T I crossed and every I dotted. That's a mistake to think that way. Imperfect action far better than taking perfect action all day long. Not suggesting to be unprofessional, but you got to go out and just start doing. But those doing, that's the activities. Then you're able to determine, if I have a list of activities and I only got 10 hours a week to dedicate to this venture, this building this coaching practice, because I have a job, I have owned 2 businesses, or whatever the case may be, then I'm going to determine what activities fit inside that 10 hours. If I have too many activities at that point, I have a decision to make. That's why I don't have a time problem. I have a decision to make regarding activities. And in most cases, a great way to kind of solve that is to say, well, which of these activities fulfill the plan that fulfills the goal? Some even call it, like, what are my money generating activities? If you're doing a lot of activities in your plan that are not fulfillment of getting clients, you may want to reconsider, because the whole purpose of yes, we're going to help people. We love that. We want to add value, want to help them expand, help them achieve their dream. Sure. But we have to build a plan that's going to provide a resource for us. So we can now begin to focus on the last part of the equation, because I told you there's 4. And that is discipline, and better, unwavering discipline. Because plenty have developed a purpose and a desire and a dream. Plenty have developed a plan. Plenty have determined what activities, but they're missing the key ingredient that fulfills the whole thing. And that's the discipline to follow through with accomplishing the activities. They get distracted, but they'll blame time. I just don't have enough time, overwhelmed. You're really not overwhelmed. You're really not, I don't have enough time. You're not disciplined to follow through with what's necessary. Not suggesting, by the way, that it's always easy. It's kind of like fitness and weight loss. Here's a simple example of somebody who needs to, or the desire to lose 30 pounds. Maybe a part of their plan on not just nutrition, but is to walk 30 minutes in the morning, hour, whatever your time is going to be. Well, many will make the mistake as their eyes wake, and they know they need to go get the body moving, to get motion in place, to get their 30 to 45 minutes in. But they get connected to, I don't want to walk today. I'm tired, stayed up late, didn't get a lot of sleep. So they'll begin to run through all these emotional feelings that likely could be true, but begin to sabotage their activity, because they made the mistake of saying, I don't want to walk. Whereas we probably don't want to walk. I mean, not everybody really loves the physical portion of, having to work out. Some do, a lot of don't. But when you suggest and you get attached to, I know when I walk, I am going to get connected to fulfilling my plan, my purpose of getting healthier, losing 30 pounds, and so on. In about 30 to 45 minutes, it will be accomplished. I'm not motivated to do it, but I'm disciplined because I understand it's the activity that I need today to complete my dream. Same thing with building a business coaching practice. Maybe you made the decision to join a couple of networking events each week. One of them is at 7:30 in the morning. It's cold. It's raining outside. And you're like, man, I'm tired. Didn't get a lot of sleep. Got a lot on my mind. I just don't feel like going. Yeah, I have so many things that are happening today. I've got this happening, that happening, whatever. There always will be those things. But we'll convince ourselves today, I don't have enough time. And I'm just going to make the argument, implore upon you to really process your thoughts before you say them out. As a matter of fact, as a believer and a Christ follower, this is where in a normal day-to-day scenario, 1 Corinthians, I think it's 1 Corinthians 10:5, I might be botching that, but it says, take every thought and make it obedient to Christ. In other words, begin to control your thoughts, because their thoughts, when we let them just run rampant, can sabotage our heart's desire, our dreams, our purpose. We know what wisdom says. Wisdom will always dictate discipline reigns. And there might be an outlier or two, but really there's not. So on a day that, it's 7:30, it's cold, raining, I really don't want to go, so I'm tired, I'm convincing myself, whatever. It really needs to be connected. But when I'm done by 9 a.m. and I've accomplished this activity, it's connected to the plan that connects me to my purpose. That's where we stay fixated on. When we stay fixated on the discipline and the activity being completed versus how I feel about the activity, because it's likely that there's just a lot of days that we may not really like the activity, and that's okay. I just want to encourage you to stay connected to the result of the activity, because you've understood where that activity is connected to your plan, that's connected to your purpose and your passion and your dream. Because if you begin to still reign with your feelings, I'm telling you, you will not do a ton of the activities. We're all susceptible to this. So this is like a muscle. This is something you build on weekly. We talk about all the time, the idea about 1% gains, every single day doing something 1%. When you're doing that, that's how 3 months, 6 months, a year down your road, you're much, much further in your growth and your development, because you made the discipline to take daily action. Now, you will, because it's normal, just like a football game. Some of those plays don't work. Some of those schemes don't work. Some of those plans don't work, and that's when we adjust. But we can't make the decisions when we don't understand what's working and what's not working. That's somewhat of a different conversation of KPIs to pay attention to, but that's when you get to do it. Too many will make the plan, never actually take action on the actual action. Let's say that 5 times. And they'll say, well, that probably isn't going to work. How? How do you know that? You don't. So there you go. Stop convincing yourself you don't have enough time. And you may literally go, you don't understand. I really am called. I want to do this, but this. I get it. But you may have 5 hours a week or 50 hours a week. It's what you do with that time. You absolutely can do it. Might be slower, might be faster, just based upon the resources that you have, the actual bandwidth you have. It's not a time problem. It's a discipline problem, an activity problem or lack thereof, a lack of planning problem, and a lack of a dream problem. That's really what it is. Because every single one of us, if we really want to do it, we will do it, whatever the word it is. Period. Let this kind of just, shake you. We need to be shaken at times. We need to be rattled sometimes. We need to be driven to conviction to what it is we want to accomplish. And you could ask the question yourself, if you feel impregnated with this idea about coaching and strategy and consulting and so on, you're trying to figure out how it's all going to work. And you've left yourself with this idea that I just don't have enough time. How long have you been thinking that way? If you've been thinking that way for quite some time, there's a good chance that you're going to be thinking this way next year and the next year and the next year. And until you actually take action and go do it, probably going to drive you crazy. So as you pan out and look at the next year, and we just do our standard, what's this next year going to look for me, and is it moving me into what I really want to do? Only you can make the decision. I just don't want you to make the decision because you don't have time. Whether you have a few hours, can't stress enough, a few hours a week, everyone's got a few hours a week for something. There's plenty of, I can promise you, I can sit down with you. I've done it enough times. You've got margin. There's only a few people in the world who really don't have margin. But even when you maybe don't have margin, you've got choices to make to create the margin. We all have areas of compromise, things that we probably don't have to do anymore, things that we can get others to do to offload. There's just a number of things like that. Not a time problem. It's a commitment, a discipline, lack of planning, and a clear dream to move forward. Hope that really has kind of got your motor running, giving you some things to really consider, to think about, to process, to pray about, to ask God to give you wisdom about. And if you ever want to talk about it, hey, I love the message here, love what you're saying. I have been one of those that have said, I don't have enough time. I get what you're saying, and I want to move this direction go to businesscoachmastery.com. You can find a place to connect and have a conversation, and we can go from there. Okay? Until next time, take care.